Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here, and he basically says, hey, would a beginner be better off doing a program that consisted purely of compound movements? Great questions. Let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. All right, this is one of those questions that's going to be controversial when I answer, because the thing is, everyone has these ideas that if you don't isolate every muscle in your body, it's not going to develop to its maximum potential. And, everyone just adds more and more and more isolation movements in these days because they honestly feel that that's the key to building muscle. But the truth is, it really isn't. In terms of exercise economy and exercise efficiency, isolation movements actually are going to put the least muscle possible on you for every minute or hour that you spend in the gym. Let's just be realistic here. And I'm not telling people to be anti-isolation movement. It's like, when you try to talk about this, people have these ideas that you are somehow anti-curls, even though I curl 3 times a week. I do bicep curls 3 times a week, guys. So if anyone says that, people always come in and they'll say, well, that's why your chest is so much bigger than your arms, Jason, because you promote that. Like, but I do curls. So if your theory was right, then shouldn't my arms be way bigger than my chest, since I've never isolate my chest ever? Since I never isolate my lats, shouldn't, my arms just be massive and me have a tiny torso? Because I do tons of curls. Well, not tons of curls, but I do them. One of the few things I isolate in my body is my biceps. But that's, again, to deal with weak points, and that's the point we're getting to. Isolation movements are weak point training. They're for people who need to throw in a little extra work for a lagging body part that lags behind their other stuff due to their genetics or structure or even the balance of their training program. Because that's the thing you'll notice. Different people, due to their individual skeletal structure, you can put them on the same training program. Right? I can take 10 people and put them on the same training program, cookie cutter program, and run them on it for a year, who all start as a beginner. Do you think they're all going to have the same proportions at the end of that year? Of course they're not. Of course they're not. How could they? People have different genetics. They have different muscles that grow at different rates. People have different bone structures. They fill out differently. So if people are all doing the exact same exercises, the same training protocol, they will all develop individual different weak points. One guy will have hamstrings that are weak, and another guy will have enormous hamstrings, and his hamstrings will be bigger than his quads on the same program. One guy will have a massive chest, and another guy will have a slightly lagging chest. One guy will have biceps that lag, and another will have biceps will be his best body part. If out of that group of 10, if you put them all on the same program. So what people need to realize, isolation movements are there really to balance back out things you're trying to do. And I don't care whether your goals are appearance or aesthetics, or if your goals are athletic performance, you are going to develop weak points on any given program. That's normal. It happens. Isolation movements are there to correct weak points and imbalances. That's what they're good at. They suck at anything else. Honestly, go look at any of the data on it. Bicep curls, if that's the only thing you do for your biceps and you do no compound movements that work your biceps, you're going to have to do more total sets and reps in order to get maximum growth out of your biceps. That's the reality. Curls alone are not as good at it. If that's all you do, you're going to struggle to develop big biceps. Guys who do weighted chin-ups and barbell rows aren't going to have to do nearly as many curls as you do to get the same size bicep. All right? They're not even going to have to do probably as many total sets for their biceps. That's the reality of it. And what we've seen, there are studies on noobs, and it's even more pronounced in noobs. And this is why Martin Berkham wrote his stuff about fuck-arounditis. If you guys go check that out, he was very, very popular 4 or 5 years ago. His fuck-arounditis article really sums a lot of this up, of people coming in and not focusing on the big basics and doing tons of fluff and isolation and then wondering why their results are coming along so slow, or why they're having to spend so much time in the gym. It's because you're trying to isolate each individual muscle instead of saying, hey, these 3 big exercises here build at least 3 major muscle groups. Each one put direct stress on them. Maybe I should get really strong on those and then correct whatever's weak at the end. And that was his strategy. If he would tell you, you want big biceps, and Martin Berkham had an aesthetic physique by most standards. The guy is a model. But he would tell you, you want big biceps, do weighted chin-ups. Get as strong as you can on full range of motion weighted chin-ups and see if you still have lagging biceps. He's like, when you can hang 100 pounds of plates off of a belt and do 5 to 8 chin-ups with that from a dead hang, I can promise you, you won't have tiny biceps, even if you never do a curl. That's what Martin Berkham said. A whole lot of people got good results following his ideas. Not saying all of his ideas were perfect, but it works. That one does. And look at the studies that are out there. We've done studies showing that when novice lifters, people within their first 6 months of training, when they do lat pull downs versus curls versus lat pull downs and curls, you take 3 different groups. Do you think the guys who do curls get bigger biceps, or the guys who do lat pull downs only get bigger biceps? Not even close. The lat pull down guys have bigger biceps. Guys who do bench press versus tricep extensions, or both, who do you think ends up with the biggest triceps? The guys who do tricep extensions or the guys who do bench press? The bench press adds more to the triceps. The lat pull down adds more to the biceps than if you just isolate them. In noob lifters, all right, this has been studied. When you add the isolation movements to the compounds, there isn't much difference, if any. Meaning, some of the people don't gain any more muscle by adding the isolation movements. There's no guarantee that they get any bigger than if they just do the lat pull downs and the bench press. The compound movements for most novice lifters can maximize your muscle growth if the workload is sufficient, and you pick compound movements that total up in your program that work every muscle in your body. You do progressive overload and you do enough workload, every muscle in your body is going to grow pretty close to as fast as possible. Adding in curls may not actually make your biceps grow any faster for the noob lifter. All right, the data says that they don't always do so. They might, but they might not. And for most, they don't make much difference. They seem to be a statistically insignificant difference. Meaning, for people who aren't wanting to just spend tons of extra time in the gym sitting around isolating things, at least as novice lifters, probably isn't going to give them any more muscle. So, begs the question, Jason, why did you put curls in your novice program? And I think the answer to that is obvious. Most people aren't aware of that other data. If I don't put curls in a novice program, no one would have run it. Yet by me putting curls in, it seems well balanced with a focus on the arms, right? It seems to have a heavy arm focus. So people ran it, and people got big and strong as fuck. Thousands and thousands of people who ran the program. Had I not included the curls, people wouldn't have run the program. Do you guys really think me having those curls thrown in there really made much difference in anybody's arms? No. But it made the program more marketable so that people would actually run it and get results. A lot of what you have to do, unfortunately, to get people to do things the right way isn't about getting them to do it the right way. It's about marketing in a way that will get them to do the things that they need to do by including other things in there that maybe aren't as important that get their attention, or things that they're worried about. And unfortunately, that's the way I had to write that program in order to get everyone to run it. But it worked, didn't it? Look how many people ran the program. Look how many people got great results. And you know what? At the end of the day, we can argue about this, and I honestly think that, yeah, most novice lifters would probably make maximum results if they just focused on about 4 to 6 big, heavy compound movements, trained the technique on them, the full range of motion, and focused on progressive overload on them with enough working volume in their training to stimulate good muscle growth. I think most novices would do just fine on that. But you know what? At the end of the day, if a novice wants to do some curls, even though we can look at it and say, you know what, they're probably not going to gain any more bicep from doing the curls if they're focusing on weighted chin-ups. If they're doing, both chest presses and overhead presses, they're probably not going to gain any tricep from doing tricep extensions. But you know what, at the end of the day, if they feel like doing some tricep extensions and it makes them feel better and gives them more confidence in their program, it's probably not going to hurt them either. Is it probably useless physically? Yeah, probably is. Let's be honest here. Noobs who are doing really good on pressing and focusing on doing weighted chin-ups and rows and progressing on them are probably not going to gain a single half inch extra on their arms by isolating them. That's the reality. But is it taking much away for them to do some curls and tricep extensions if they really feel like doing them and they're convinced that that's going to make their program successful? I would rather have people do something that maybe is slightly more inefficient, that gives them confidence in a program so that they continue to do it, if that's what it requires to give them confidence in the program to stay consistent. Because at the end of the day, you cannot forget the psychological aspect of training. There is a psychological aspect involved, and it requires consistency. Anything that will psychologically give you faith in what you are doing and make you more consistent will give you better results. And that's just the reality of it. And it seems like lots of news because everyone focuses on big arms and they're convinced curls are necessary to get big arms. If you don't give them the option to include some curls in a program, they're going to lose faith in the program. Even if it's an amazing program that would probably maximize their arm size without a single isolation movement, it's going to be a hard sell. And that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day. Until people are taught differently and they actually understand that isolation movements by themselves actually oftentimes add less muscle to a given body part than a heavy focus on a compound might in some cases, and they're certainly not going to ever give you more than a compound will, meaning you should never expect your biceps to get bigger doing just curls than if you had done just weighted chin-ups. But until people learn that, you're never going to convince them otherwise. And so sometimes if people aren't allowed to do these isolation movements, they're going to lose confidence in what they're doing. And that's just the nature of it. You just have to deal with that. Whether it's reality or not is probably irrelevant. Perception of reality becomes very, very important for keeping people motivated and consistent. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.